Hello and welcome to Channel Duello. The new Gwent expansion set, Way of the Witcher, is finally out, and it's time to review each card in the set. But I decided to do this in 7 parts instead of shooting a long video. Why am I doing this? First, that would be kinda boring. Second, the cards in this expansion seem to have strong interactions among themselves, and it looks like they are designed to be played in thematic decks. So I'm going to be reviewing the set faction by faction plus the neutral cards and upload these videos consecutively. So by the time you're watching this, hopefully all the videos will be uploaded. So make sure to check out the rest of the videos in the playlist, which I will provide below. And this introduction part will be the same in every video, obviously, so feel free to skip it and enjoy the rest. In this video, I'll be talking about Skellige faction. Skellige is called Way of the Bear in this expansion, and they represent strength and endurance. As usual, I'm starting with the Bronze Witchers in Skellige, and their core Witcher is named Bear Witcher. When Bear Witcher is deployed, he damages himself by 3 and has 8 power, so it's naturally 5 provision, 5 point card. But if you have Adrenaline 4, which means you have 4 or less than 4 cards, he damages also an enemy unit by 3, so you get decent value if you hold on to them for a while. Bear Witcher Adapt is the student card of this faction. When he deploys, similar to Bear Witcher, he damages himself by 4, but at the end of the turn he heals himself by 1, and this goes on until he has full health, and while he is not damaged he gains 1 armor. So this is an engine card, and he cannot go above 7, unless you boost him with special cards, so that's nice. So he has a ceiling at least, and he could be removed easily, but if you ignore him, the opponent will get 7 points value out of a 4 provision card. So I guess this is a decent card and could be valuable in certain decks. The Mentor card for Skellige is called Bear Witcher Mentor, and this card is actually quite powerful, and in Gwent you usually play your bronze cards in the first few turns, but this card is quite different. You need to hold on to him, because if you have 3 or less than 3 cards, he boosts himself by 1 for every damage unit on the battlefield. So that could give you a lot of value, because Skellige can damage opponent cards, and if you have self-damage cards as well, you're gonna get a lot of value. And if you're not patient enough, you can deploy him, and he boosts himself by 1 for every damaged allied unit. So if you're building a self-damage deck, well, he could be useful in the early turns of the round as well. I think this is a pretty good card for 5 power, for 5 provisions. And Bear Witcher Quartermaster, and this is also a pretty good card. His order ability is damaging an allied unit by 1, so still the self-wound theme is going on here. And if you do that, you spawn a Witcher student on this row, and you have 2 charges, and you can use them the following turn, so there is no cooldown or something like that. So you can get, if you're damaging a unit that really likes to get damage, you're gonna get really good value here. If not, still not bad, because you're putting 2 power tokens on the battlefield, and who knows, maybe you'll boost all Witchers by something else. So I think this is a really good card, and you can deploy all these bronze units with their location card, which is called Hern Kaduk, although the location is saying Skellige Castle. I think I mixed up there with Squirtel's location. Anyhow, what is the order ability? As you all know, with all the location cards, you're deploying the Bronze Witchers, similar to other factions. The order ability is nice as well. You heal adjacent units by 3, so you have to be careful with where you put your units on the board. If you put damaged units next to this location, on both sides, and you can use your order ability anytime and heal them by 3. So there is 6 points potential there, which is really good for a location card, because the order ability is an average in most of the location cards, and this card could give you maybe the most potential. And a legendary witcher is called Arnagat, and Arnagat is quite a unique card. This is a really good design in my opinion, and he's a 7-powered witcher with 10 provisions. When he deploys, he gains 1 armor for every damaged unit on the board. So the units could be your allies or opponents' units, so there is no restriction with that. But what are you gonna do with all that armor? Well, the adrenaline ability is quite good. So if you have adrenaline 4, 4 cards or less, when your opponent plays a unit, damage that unit by Arnagat's power and damage Arnagat by that unit's power. So if you can somehow manage to put like 7 or 8 armors on Arnagat, which is actually quite easy to achieve if you're playing aggressive control type Skellige deck. When your opponent plays a card, his card will be damaged and destroyed instantly. But deploy abilities will trigger first, and then that card will be damaged. So the opponent should be really careful in what to play. This is a good design, but the thing that I don't like about this card is, the opponent has the initiative there. The opponent will decide which card will get destroyed. So as a Skellige player, you may not like that, because Skellige likes to control the battlefield, and this is not a card like that. So you're gonna play it and then leave it to the opponent, and you're gonna say deal with this. And if you manage to deal with Arnagat, you're only gonna get 7 point out of a 10 provision card. What about the epic witchers for Skellige? Unit of Belhaven. This is actually Vabjorn, and Vabjorn, was modified to a raid tutor card, and that ability was erased from the game, but it's back. So deploy, destroy a damaged unit. Well, Vabjorn wasn't used frequently before he became a tutor, so again this card isn't that great, because it says damaged enemy unit. Suppose the opponent has green health units. If you damage it, it's not gonna go to red health immediately. So it could be difficult sometimes to to create a damage unit on opponent's side of the board. You can damage them, but it won't get damaged status, that red health thing. So unit maybe having a difficult time to find a target for himself. But he is 6-powered and a witcher, so he could be played in a witcher theme deck, and you can tutor him with maybe Gwent. Well, it is a good card, but I don't think it's an auto-include or a 5-star card, or not something like that, not even close in my opinion. Geralt is a witcher, and this is a card that you need to play early in the round. Why? It has Adrenaline 4 on him, and if you have 4 or less cards in your hand, his ability will be diminished. His ability is deploying and spawning a Deafening Siren on the opposite row and damage all units on that row by 1. So you're creating a nice bloodthirst on that row. If there are, let's say, 2 or 3 units on the same row, you're gonna get a lot of value and bloodthirst as well. And if you hold on too long, then it will only spawn a Deafening Siren on the opposite row and damage only the Siren by 1. So it's gonna lose value. But he is 8-powered, as you see. So you're getting 8 points with 7 provisions, and if you can manage to hit a couple of units on the board, if you play it early, you can get a lot of points, and that could be really valuable for Skellige, because Skellige is sometimes struggling in when they're playing blue coin and trying to find a good card. so they need longer rounds to produce points. So Kurt could be useful and help with that cause. What about the legendary beast for Skellige? That is Dire Bear. And Dire Bear is actually a tech card, so it is kind of strange when you compare it to other beasts in Way of the Witcher set. Units in this and opposite row can't be boosted, so it's gonna lock that row. So if the opponent is, you know, totally depending on boosting units, and there are actually a lot of decks like that, you're gonna shut down that row and they're not gonna be able to boost anything in that row. But it's not gonna reverse boosted units. So after you play Dire Bear, boosting units will be forbidden in that row. Also, you're not going to be able to boost your units as well. So units in this and opposite row. And the opponent can you know, put units in the other row, obviously, when you play Dire Bear. But after that, maybe you can play Heimdall and punish the opponent, because he's going to be playing units on the other row. So it is a nice card. And even if you can't find any value, you're gonna get at least 8 points from a 9 provision card. So you're not gonna feel awful about it after you play this card and get no boost value. I mean, if the opponent is playing Skellige, you know, mirror match, they're probably not gonna be boosting any units, so it's gonna be useless, but at least you're getting an 8 point slam there. Could be really good in short rounds as well. So not a bad card at all, but not a great card either. Special card for Skellige is not making a bump. As you see, I goofed up in this video, and apparently I didn't change everything from my Skellige video. Sorry about that. The card is called Armor Up. It's a raid card. You damage an enemy unit by 2 and then spawn 3 Witcher students on the opposite row and damage them by 1 and then give them 1 armor. So you're actually doing some kind of a Witcher swarm with putting 3 units on them, and then you're damaging them and getting red health. So it is kinda setting up for your Arnagat. You're also damaging an enemy unit by 2. So this will really help with the cause. But it is kinda weak. If you look at it, you know, only by this card. So it has to be played in a very, very specific deck to get a decent value out of this card. I'm not a fan of this card. I mean, if I rate it, it would be 2 out of 5 stars or something like that. If this was alchemy, things could have been different, because I think some of the cards really go well with alchemy cards. And I'm going to talk about them a bit later. And let's talk about theory crafting, possible interactions, and synergies. As you see, these cards will, let's say, boost self-wound type of decks, because there are a lot of units that damages themselves. And Skellige already had several units like that, but now they have more units like that, and actually they're better than the previous versions. And also, they will be able to damage opponent units. So if you're playing some kind of a Bloodthirst deck, or get benefit when opponents' cards get damaged, and Skellige is actually all about that. So that's going to help them as well. And we're going to have a lot of Skellige Witchers. So you could think about playing Witcher Swarm, just like Northern Realms. Let's talk about all these 3 options. First, the self-wound mechanic. And this also helps with Berserk, because although there is no Berserk units in this expansion, it's going to help the previous ones that has Berserk tag on them. Well, these 2 cards will get a lot of values from self-wound, obviously, and they also get value if you damage your opponent, so they have 2 advantages. Don't forget about that. And Bear Witcher, raid, that's this raid card, Armor Up. They all help with self-wound cause. Also Bear Witcher Adapt and Quartermaster. They're feeding on this self-wound mechanic. Well, the payoff for the self-wound mechanic, obviously these 2 cards, but there are also other cards, and like the Berserk units. I just put a sample here. There are many Berserk units in this game. And there are ways to deal more damage, and while dealing you're gonna get value, like Swall Blood Priests, for example, the classic card. And Butcher card, Swall Blood Butcher, again damages a unit and then damages an opponent's units. It's actually really goes well with these two cards, these new two Witchers, Arnagat and Mentor. And let's not forget about Sig Vault. Actually, Sig Vault is another pretty good self-wound card. I mean, if he goes into Berserk mode, he's gonna start damaging opponent units by 2. So it's helping with both cause, you know, damage yourself, damage the opponent. So if a creative mind can come up with a deck like this, you know, the units will damage themselves and also damage the opponent and get huge value out of these two cards. That could be really a good competitive deck in my opinion. Also, let's not talk about this guy. He was being used, you know, frequently, and he will love this protector card. He will love the damaging self-wound mechanic. I mean, if you put those self-wound units next to him, to his left and right, he's gonna boost himself all the way up to who knows where. Let's not forget about damage your opponents or the bloodthirst mechanic. Again, these two cards will get value if you play it on the if you play it checking on the adrenaline number, if you play it at the right time, the right timing. And also don't forget about this unit Witcher, destroy opponent damaged units. If you can somehow do that, he could be useful as well. And I don't want to talk about all the Skellige units, because there are a lot of units that feed on damaged units, so no need to list them all here. It's really obvious. And let's talk about potential Witcher tribal deck. Can we do it in Skellige? Yes, we can do it in Northern Realms, but Skellige, I'm not sure. But let's take a look at the cards. Well, if you're talking about Witcher tribal or Witcher swarm thing, you need to produce these tokens, student tokens, obviously. And Armor Up will produce these tokens, and the Quartermaster will produce them. But compared to Northern Realms, you don't have any way to, let's say, transform them to 4-powered units, like that Adept card, that shielded units. So you don't have an engine here. You just produce additional bodies on the board. But you can, you know, use boost cards maybe. That raid card that boosts 3 units next to each other, that could be helpful, but still not a great card in my opinion. There is also Selective Mutation, which is a neutral card, but if you're planning to play Witchers, this should be an auto-include, because you're gonna look for a Adrenaline unit, and there are a lot of good Witcher cards with Adrenaline tag on them. So, and also you produce 2 Witcher student tokens, which is really nice. So don't forget about that. And another upside for this card is this is an alchemy card, so you can tutor it with Ermion. And if you're playing a battle translator ability, since you're playing alchemy, one of your units will get healed. So there's that as well. And what about the Witchers? We already talked about this expansion's Witchers, but we have really powerful neutral Witchers in the game, like Vesemir Mentor. I mean, he, let's say, gained 3 levels after this expansion was released, so he's much more powerful. So they had to, you know, tone him down a bit and added Adrenaline tag. But since he has Adrenaline, you can tutor him with Selective Mutation, so don't forget about him. Don't forget about that. And there is Leo. I mean, suppose you put a lot of student tokens using these cards, Leo will get pretty good value, since there will be a lot of Witchers on the board, and maybe you can protect Berengar if you have a lot of Witchers on the board. And there is that Geralt Quang card, which looks for tutors Witchers. You can also think about adding him if you're designing a deck like that for Skellige, but I don't recommend for now. But who knows, maybe someone will prove me wrong and create a nice, strong Skellige Witcher deck. What about existing decks just before this expansion was released? Will these cards improve the existing decks? Well, we had actually 3 Skellige decks before this came out. We had Warrior Midrange. It was the dominant Skellige deck type. Patricidal Fury was the most popular, but it was really possible to play with other Skellige leader abilities as well. But the theme was the same, Herald and all these warriors. It was a really good, consistent deck, especially using a Blood Eagle. So, can you add any cards to this deck? It's already a solid deck, actually. Well, I couldn't find any cards because all the cards are Witcher decks, so they're not warriors. So, if you try to add any cards from the Way of the Witcher, the deck will be worse, in my opinion. Why would you remove any warrior cards from this deck? Arnagat is obviously the best card, but who are you going to remove to put Arnagat there? Is it going to be Morkvark, Hemdall? They are really good cards. So I wouldn't touch that deck. But will that deck, be as powerful as it was? Time will tell. Because there are a lot of greedy decks right now when I'm recording this video, and Warrior Midrange maybe, struggle with them. But I haven't personally tested it yet. And there is that Ursine Ritual deck using Lippy. I hate that deck. I think it's cancerous and it's a toxic deck. I don't play it. I don't like playing against it. And I don't want to discuss this here. And fortunately, that deck didn't get any boosts from the new cards, but they had obviously buffs. Like 2 of the cards that go into Lippy deck, their provision costs were reduced by 1, but that's about it. So you cannot add any new cards to that deck. And finally, Battle Trance deck. Well, that deck had 2 versions. They're both similar in design. But neither of them was, optimized in my opinion. But as I talked about it, earlier, that self-wound mechanic really goes well with Battle Trance leader ability, as long as you continue playing alchemy cards, because those damage units will be healed for every alchemy card you play. So if you somehow mix those 2, synergies, damaged units, alchemy cards, maybe add Gednith into the mix, you can create a strong deck, in my opinion. So that Battle Trance deck could be modified with using Witcher cards and alchemy cards, because Battle Trance weren't using warrior cards. That's the reason. So that's about it, I guess. Thank you for watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and if you like this video, please hit the like button, and see you in the next faction review video. Bye bye.